Come on in if there's anybody still in the coffee room. The meeting is about to get started, and I have directions from Marcia. So here we are. I'm Tony Hayes, the outgoing vice president. Today is April 6th, and we're recording this on Zoom. Larry Kenner is going to give us some opening thoughts, which are always good. Come on up, Larry. I know you're here somewhere.
Well, this is good. It's the only time of the month I get to think. So I'm continuing what we started last month, called Something to Ponder by George Carlin. You may remember him. He was a little nasty mouth comedian. And this all was completely different from what he usually does, so we'll continue. We ended last month with this. We build more computers to hold more information, to produce more copies than ever, but we communicate less and less. So continuing, he says, these are the times of fast foods and slow digestion, big men and small character, steep profits and shallow relationships. These are the days of two incomes, but more divorce, fancier houses, more broken homes. These are the days of quick trips, disposable diapers, throwaway morality, one-night stands, overweight bodies, and pills that do everything from cheer to quiet to kill. It is a time when there is much in the showroom window and nothing in the stockroom. A time when technology can bring this letter to you, and a time when you can choose either to share this insight or to just hit delete. Remember, say a kind word to someone who looks up to you in awe, because that little person soon will grow up and leave your side. Remember to say, I love you to your partner and your loved ones, but most of all, mean it. A kiss and an embrace will mend hurt when it comes from deep inside of you. Remember to hold hands and cherish the moment, for someday that person will not be there again. Give time to love, give time to speak, and give time to share the precious thoughts in your mind. And always remember, life is not measured by the number of breaths we take, but by those moments that take our breath away. George Carlin.
Today is April the 6th, and for membership is Lois. Are you here? I know you are. Judy Phillips will come up and tell about our members.
Today we have 28 members that have showed up and signed, and 2 guests, which are the people with our program, and their names are, hold on one sec, Patty and Rod Rydell. So Oh, okay. What is your name? Rose. And the last name? Petillon? I probably don't pronounce it right, but that's fine. Thank you. And then for lunch, how many people are going to lunch? I have actually down 12 that have checked.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Would y'all like to go to lunch with us? 14, did you get that?
14.
Oh, I didn't count you.
I'm not going to lunch.
Oh.
Thank you.
Okay. Lois, you're going to give us our treasurer's report. Lois is going to give us our treasurer's report.
I wish we had it down there. Or
That
you
would
would,
make more sense, wouldn't it?
yeah. Okay, I was complaining in the back, I have too many pieces of paper to keep track of here, and my glasses aren't working. Good morning, everyone, I'm so happy to see all of you here. I think I can see you, yes, okay. Treasurer's report, I show a balance of $547.34. It is not confirmed with our treasurer, but I'll do that next week, hopefully. Is that all I'm supposed to do now?
I think so.
Okay.
But I'm just going by my detailed notes.
Okay.
If it's not on the notes.
Okay. Today was the beginning of dues day month for the next year. So $25 due to Chumsey with Colonial Classics in the note area if anyone has not yet paid. Thank you. I'm going over to the piano now.
Okay. Thank you, Lois. Now, for the April birthdays, will Patty come up? Or Becky, who's doing the honors?
Hi. We have 2 April birthdays, and one of the ladies I haven't seen in a very long time, which is Nancy Roundtree. But anyway, I want to ask if we have any more April birthdays. First of all, we have Maria Solis. Can you please come up? And her birthday is April the 3rd. And Nancy Roundtree is April the 21st. Is there anyone else that has an April birthday out there? No? Well, Maria. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Maria. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Old business. Old business. The donation drive for the Humane Society will collect items through May. A wish list can be found on the Humane Society website. Items can be brought to our next meeting or dropped off at the church office. New business. Our income is projected to be $750, which is for 30 members. Our expenses are for gifts of the heart, cards for presenters, for $240, program honorariums, $100, hospitality committee, $200, discretionary expenses, $210, for a total of $750. Is there any discussion? Would someone like to make a motion that the budget be approved? Second it. All those in favor, say aye or raise your hand or both. It's carried. Any other new business? David, would you come up and introduce our speakers? David Dixon, where are you? There you are. You know, you can't see who's out there from here.
I'm very honored today to introduce our guest speakers. Now, a couple months ago, I drove down to inner city development and I met Rod, and he gave me a tour around the facility and gave me a leaflet telling me about their programs. And I was very impressed. And I'm also very happy to say, through Gifts of the Heart, we give offerings to the organization, and also we have volunteers for the church that help out. And I just want to hear more about the great work that they do, and maybe any special needs they have, how we could help, and maybe to inspire and motivate us a little bit more. So we have Rod and Patty, and also Rose, the administrative assistant, who will be giving the presentation today. Okay?
So good morning, and thank you so much for having us come out to Colonial Hills. This certainly isn't our first time out here, and we, just very happy to be with you in another setting, an additional setting, to seeing so many of you come down to inner city to help with our SAC lunch program. And thank you for the generous acceptance for Rose to be with us. It's important for her as she learns her job to see the kind of things that we do, and what a nice place to come to show her what it's like to go out to a church and, improve on the relationship over so many years. So what, yes, go ahead.
Also, just to put things in perspective, the first time we were here was over 50 years ago. And at that time, this didn't exist. The two-story structure over here was the church, and a lot of changes have occurred. But the one thing that has not changed is Colonial Hills' involvement with inner city. And again, we want to thank you on the front end for that, being stalwart individuals, not just with money, but also with your time and energy. So I do have to ask the one question. How many were here the first time we came 50 years ago? Oh, there we go. Okay. We got a person. So we're still hanging in there. Obviously you are too. So thank you.
So what we thought we would do is tell you a little bit personally about ourselves, and then we'll talk to you about why we do the things we do, and then we'll talk about some of what we do at Inner City. So I think I'm starting, and so I was born in Philadelphia, so I started off as an East Coaster, and then I learned to walk in Guam. And then I went to first grade in Waukegan, Illinois. And then I went to third grade in Washington, D.C. I went to some middle school in Spain. and then came back to DC. And so by this time, you can probably guess that one of my parents was in the military. So my father was in the Navy, and I enjoyed all that traveling around, and it was a big piece of my education. So it gave me the interest that when I was going to go to college, I wanted to go to someplace different. We were living in DC. My brother was here in San Antonio in the seminary. I love my brother, we're close. I thought, I'll see what's happening in San Antonio. And I applied to Our Lady of the Lake University. And we are grew up a very Catholic family, and still attend the Catholic church there on the west side. So I enjoyed my first 3 years at Our Lady of the Lake, and I finally decided in my junior year, had a talk with myself, what are you going to major in? What are you really interested in? And I decided it was theology. I had been in so many, vibrant conversations about, theological things. But I realized at that time, I don't know what it's like today, but it wasn't the place to be to major in theology. So I transferred to Marquette University, where the Jesuits were, and had a good reputation for theology for my senior year, and graduated from Marquette. And experiences there really helped make clarity in why I came back to San Antonio and what we do in San Antonio. So I'll talk about that the next round and turn it over to Rod.
I did not travel like she did. I traveled many different colleges, but that was primarily because of me jumping from one thing to the next. I was born in Los Angeles, California, and stayed in the same home for the majority of my life until I was an adult. I had gone to, again, Catholic schools during that time, and the main thing I did, I followed my brother to Mount Carmel High School, which no longer exists. It was a small Carmelite high school near 70th and Hoover. If anyone's familiar with Los Angeles, 70th and Hoover is a predominantly black community, and it's also very close to where a lot of the Watts riots occurred back in the 60s. I really didn't have much exposure to minorities. The elementary, junior high school I went to had, I think, 2 black students and probably a half dozen Hispanic students. The rest were all white from the suburbs where we lived. And, but I decided to go to Mount Carmel High School because they had a good football program. It had nothing to do with education. And so I went there, and it was a third Hispanic, a third black, and a third white. So that was an educational experience for me, getting to know how people operated in different cultures and the differences in food. It was great. Good education from that standpoint for me. I entered the Carmelite Seminary shortly after that to study for the priesthood, and ended up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where Marquette is located, and started my studies there. Shortly after that, I went to Niagara Falls, Canada, and then decided at that point in time that I really wanted to go ahead and, at some point in time, get married and have children. And the bottom line is, at that time, as well as it is today, that didn't work out very well in the Catholic Church, so we couldn't pull that off. Actually came to San Antonio because of this turkey over here, but she'll explain that in a minute.
He made it clear that he'd already made his decision to leave the seminary, okay? All right, so I am not a thief to the Catholic Church's vocations. But to talk a bit about why we are involved in what we do. When we were at Marquette, again, I was just there for 1 year, and you were as well. But so we arrived, I guess, the beginning of September, and by the end of September, I also want to say that I thought when I came to Marquette and I saw these young Navy, you know, they're in that stage of study, but they're in their ROTC thing. I thought, oh, maybe I'll meet one of them and marry a Navy officer like my sister, you know. But in September, and it was 1968, the Vietnam War was, you know, very, very active. And there was a big demonstration of a group called the Milwaukee 14. And they were 12 of them were ministers, and 2 of them were lay people. And they were protesting against the Vietnam War. They went to the draft board. They detained the cleaning woman and got all the draft files, took them across the street, and set them on fire. Well, as someone who grew up in a military family and who was trying to study about theology and how Jesus wants us to behave, and this was kind of a threatening, you know, event for me. It threatened me into my conscience to wonder, how do I handle that? There are all these religious people doing this, and here I am studying religion and everything. So I went home that Christmas, and my brother-in-law, who was also in the Navy, told me to stay away from those kooks, you know, that they were crazy people. And it didn't quite settle with me, because for where I was at, I could not see Jesus saying, love your neighbor on one hand and carrying an M16 rifle in the other. So it was very difficult, but I landed on pacifism. And so that has influenced the rest of my life and, you know, the kind of decisions I make. And the other very big thing that I experienced at Marquette, I was a senior and I had a freshman roommate. And my freshman roommate found out about this little after-school organization called Snoopy's Clubhouse. And she went there. And Marquette was in the middle of heavy poverty. There's been renovations and development over the years, but it was heavy poverty. And she would bring in these little kids after school, and she'd ask my help with this or that, the Halloween party or whatever it was. And I felt that after these different experiences, in prayer and everything else, I felt like, I think I'm called to be a sponge this year. And I think my life's going to be very different after graduation. So I took that role as a sponge and just took in everything that was happening that year, whether it was in the classroom or it was out in the street. And again, it's had such an influence on my life, and it influenced me about where I was going. And I decided, I'm going back to San Antonio, but I'm going back to a poverty area, not as a social worker, but to be with people who suffer things of poverty. And so, you know, that's what I did. And that's where I've been since 1969, on the west side of San Antonio.
My story is a little different. As you can probably realize, there's a lot of differences between the two of us on upbringing. I lived in a very stable family, but I was going to a school that was located, like I said, near Watts. And, you know, played football and enjoyed what I was doing at the school. Very impressed with the Carmelites and what they were doing. And the bottom line is, my senior year, there was a situation that happened, which some of you may have read about in the newspapers and whatnot, but the bottom line, the Watts riots. This is what broke out, and literally a good part of the lower income community was burnt to the ground. The interesting point about that was that I was going to a school that was located right there. And when this was occurring, I could sit on our garage and look in that direction on 70th and Hoover and see the flames burning from that community. Something didn't seem right. Couldn't figure it out in high school. So a couple of us, a couple of my friends and I, unbeknownst to our parents, got in a car and we drove through that area where we weren't supposed to go. But it was very educational for me, because what I was seeing was that a community with anger and disappointment would react that way in their own community, trying to figure out what can be different. So it got me to that moment of truth, trying to think about what can be different in these lower income communities and what can I learn about that. Anyway, as that went on, I ended up going, like I said, to the Carmelite Seminary for a while, and made a determination that I too wanted to go ahead and learn from that community. And I decided I was going to go back to Watts and move into that area to try to learn about that community and what I can do to be a part of working with that community. Again, not as a social worker, which I eventually became, but as an individual and as a Christian. Unbeknownst to me or Patty, music played a really important role in our lives.
Yes, when we were both at Marquette, one of the student study, a woman that had been at Our Lady of the Lake was up there working on her master's, and so she knew me and knew that I sang and played the guitar, and so there was this May Day event, and she was coordinating it through the English department she worked for. And so people were auditioning, and Rod and some other seminarians came up and auditioned, and she told them, well, y'all sound pretty good, but you need a woman's voice. And so then she told the seminarians about me, and I ran into Rod. There were these guys all, at that time they were all in black, and carrying their guitars, and coming out of the student union, and I said, are you Rod Radel, And so we got connected, and he wanted us to wanted me to audition, so I didn't know that I was being sneaked in to the seminary, where they lived, so I could audition for them to sing. And so we did sing together there, and we've been here singing with Colonial Hills many times, so that is how we got connected. All right. So do you have more you were going to say about it?
That's enough.
Okay. All right. So he, decided to move to San Antonio. I wanted to come back to San Antonio, and when I was trying to find a place to live, I'd say to people, well, I want to move into a poverty area. I want to know if you know any place I could go. I want a poverty area, but I want a safe one, and all my white middle-class naivety, not really knowing what it's like to be in a poverty area. And so they would tell me, well, don't move here and don't move there. Well, we moved here or there. I don't know which one, but it was one of the places they said, oh, don't go there, it's dangerous, there's gangs and all that. And when we moved in, I guess one cycle of gangs had kind of, in a sense, ended because so many of them ended up in jail or had died. And, there were streets you didn't cross. We didn't know that. We crossed whatever street. And so we had a lot to learn when we ended up moving into Guadalupe Street at first, and then we moved to Veracruz Street, which is right across from the Alazan Apache Courts, on the near west side. And, I know why people said that it was a dangerous place to live. I know why they say that, people would label it a bad neighborhood. After 55 years of life on the west side of San Antonio, it is a fantastic neighborhood. If you know it, if you know the people, even the people that are served the sack lunches, having conversation with them, as I see the heads shaking, you have gotten to know how beautiful the soul or the heart is of our community. And, you know, we have learned so much, and we have to say we still learn. And because of what we learned from being in the area where Rod grew up, or for having lived in the poverty area at where Marquette University is located, it made us want to be connected with people who are doing things. Again, even though Rod became a social worker, that wasn't why he went there. He came there to live. But because our idea was just to get involved with neighbors, you know, well, we ran into a Father Ralph Ruiz, a Catholic priest, who had an organization called Inner City Apostolate that he founded by going around that immediate community. It was just a block away from where Inner City is now, and inviting people to come and talk about what they think ought to be done to improve things in their neighborhood. And as much as possible, that's the way we have tried to keep Inner City. In about 1970, Father Ralph Ruiz had to leave the community. He was taking on a national position somewhere. And he asked Rod to take over, and then I was like, hey, we do this together, what about me? And so I asked them if they'd make us co-directors, and they did. And then we looked at all the needs around the neighborhood that he had already gathered people together to look at. And they had a very small emergency food, and it wasn't even a pantry, it was some boxes that people had donated, and if somebody was hungry, they'd pull something out of the box. Clothing was a challenge. They didn't have a clothing closet, but they had some sports. They had a baseball little league that they started through the local elementary school. So there were programs there. And then when we took over, we expanded a lot of those programs. We though, it's Patty and Rod, but it's people like Rose, who's already, she's in this position now. She's already volunteered for the summer program at least 5 years and participated in the summer program when she was younger. So the we is people from the community giving direction to what we ought to be doing.
To put it in context too, that she forgot the point about what our compensation was going to be. This board of directors, they were, you know, neighborhood people, and they said, well, we think you should be paid something. And we said, well, we're not looking for paid. And then they said, okay, we'd like it to be, I think it was 6,000. 6,000.
2,000 for travel.
Yeah, $6,000 salary for the year and $2,000 for transportation. So Patty and I looked at each other and said, no, we're not looking for money here. And everybody's a volunteer, so that doesn't sound right. And so we made a deal with the board at that time, which is still in effect today, is that when we raise enough money to take care of all the needs in the community, we'll accept the salary. So they had still didn't feel bad about that. So that's a good deal. It's a good deal. Well, we haven't been paid in 55 years, so that's okay. It worked out the way we wanted it to work out. But program-wise, Patty mentioned about the food pantry. The food pantry has really grown. It's been one of the oldest operating food pantries in the city for the past 55 years. We have major collections. Holy Cross High School raised how many cans this year? 9,000?
9,000.
Yeah, last year was 6,000. This year I think came close to 9,000 cans that came in. We also raised money for the food pantry to keep it going through a program called Thanksgiving 365 that Patty came up with. And we try to raise all the money to keep the pantry going for a year, which is about $40,000. And we do that through people fasting and encouraging other people to contribute. This year we did it in a week. So the money came in. A lot of people have been doing this for years with Inner City, and they keep the programs going. And that's one way to make sure we have the funds we need to keep the program going. We have an emergency clothing room. People have donated clothes, been very generous, and so we have food to give out, individual clothes to give out to families that are in need. maybe wanting to apply for a job, but they don't have something they want to wear to go to that job, they can come to the pantry and clothing pantry, and that's helped. And then also a lot of the unhoused. We have a program that deals with serving lunches to the unhoused and serves a lot of feedback. No. And what happens, they serve anywhere between 30, 40, 50, and one day last week it was 70 individuals that are homeless that come to there for a sack lunch that we do. Why don't you jump in on the other programs?
Okay. I mentioned that they had a sports program very, very early on. So our sports program is expanded too. And 55 years ago, Rod organized some teenagers to be coaches. I was a scorekeeper. It was a lot of fun, and we realized how much leadership developed in those teenagers. I mean, some of them are, 13, 14, coaching kids that are, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, So, so we really realized the value of that. And in our programming, especially in the summer program, is a time when we involve a whole lot of teenagers. And inspired by the softball team that they had years ago, we developed the basketball program very extensively. Right now, we are in the middle of the basketball program for 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th graders. It's a very active program on Saturdays. And then we've done different things in sports over the years. The soccer, we had a volunteer who is very, very into soccer. We don't have a soccer program anymore. Nobody picked that up. So anybody want to do soccer? We have some uniforms, but that's the way inner city will be sometimes. A volunteer comes, they have certain talents, certain interests, and if you will run it, it's in your hands, and we'll support you. I give examples of the person who was an actor in New York and moved into San Antonio, and she came and taught kids, how to act. Whatever people's talents are, if they want to offer them, we'll find a way to do that. So sports has been a program. Rod mentioned the clothing. There aren't as many programs for clothing in the neighborhood as there are, like for food. And so we go through a lot of clothing, and we're always in need of especially men's pants and t-shirts, women's pants as well. And people will say, well, you have a lot of repeaters. Why do you need so many pants? And I always say that, well, there's no washing machines under the bridge. There's no washing machine behind that dumpster where they sleep at night. So, just for a reality check, it's really hard to see us go through that much clothing. But again, they're in a position where they're carrying their life in plastic bags with them wherever they go. So, and then the summer program, as I mentioned, a lot of teenagers help us run that. We will have as many as 40 teenagers helping us through the summer, and a whole bunch of adults too. And our goal is to have fun, to make it a fun place for the kids during the summer. And we're pretty successful at that. They love it. And we serve lunches, we serve snacks, we go on all sorts of field trips. Many of our children spend, most of their life within that immediate community. Unless they have to go to the hospital, then they come out more this way to the medical center. But we want to give children, the experiences of other places. It matures us all, right, when we see how other people are. What programs are we missing?
Well, some special programs. One is, Patty's the creative person, okay? She's the one who I always refer to, this is Patty Radel. She served on city council. She served at SAISD as the chair for 10 years, 12 years. And I always refer to myself as the driver. I just drive her around, and that's okay with me. It works out well with our dispositions. But she came up with another program besides Thanksgiving 365, which is a way to go ahead and provide toys for kids at Christmas. Often we'd have individuals,
Not the Thanksgiving 365, I mean the
At-
toy sale.
the toy sale.
Yeah, toy sale.
That's in addition to the 365. Okay. We never argue. The bottom line is people would come to inner city and they'd say, we'd like to pick out a family in this area, especially the courts where they have 800 families living, and give them something for Christmas. We said, well, that's a great idea, but how do we pick out one family out of 800? We also had an individual who was a volunteer board member who went ahead and said one time when we talked about this that he always appreciated when the Blue Santa or one of the Santa programs would come by and they would bring presents for the kids. That was such a great thing because the parents couldn't afford it. But then he also remembered his parents being off to the side, not being part of the process. So Patty said, okay, well, let's come up with something unique. And so she invited several individuals and organizations to donate toys to the center, turn around and sell them to families at about 5-10% of what their value is. So parents could come in with the little resources they had and pick out something for their kids. The first year, we were doing that out of a shotgun house where we had like maybe 200 toys, all pretty small. It's now grown to, we're serving roughly how many kids last year? 600?
600, close to 700.
Almost 700 kids were helped. And the parents all pick out the toys. And we've dropped the whole thing and charging 5 or 10%. We just say, give a donation at the end. Any of your donations will go to support the food pantry. And it's worked out great. But it's that kind of creativity working with volunteers. Again, Inner City has one part-time staff person. Guess who that is? First row here, Rose, okay. Because we got to the point years ago where the board said, you all need some help dealing with the basics here so you can keep doing what you're doing. And so that's the one part-time person we have right now who does that, and Rose does a great job. She's from the community, lives in the Alazan Courts, okay? So she's right there and she knows what our client population is. What else as far as, Dia de los Muertos. Every year there's been a organization that our daughter is connected with that holds the Day of the Dead celebration down at Hemisphere Park. It's grown to where last year they had 135,000 people attend that over 2 days. They do a procession remembering the dead, but they also get a lot of small vendors to come in and operate out of that, and Inner City's been a benefactor of that over the last 4 or 5 years. So it's been very helpful keeping the programs going, raising funds for that. And it's also been a good way to remember the dead in the process.
I think we've covered most of the programs, and we wanted to,
About time for questions.
and wanted to see if y'all have questions or want us to talk about anything. Yes, David? Oh, okay.
I enjoyed the presentation very much. Thank you for coming. I looked at your leaflet here and I noticed you have pictures and quotations from Gandhi and Mother Teresa. And as I told you a couple of